Okay, we're live. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, anyone watching now or later. Um, this is amazing and this is wonderful, and it's my pleasure to be joined here today by Ian from Baen Books and Susana Imaginario from Den of the Weird and writer of the Timelessness series to discuss and completely spoil Ashes of Man, which is book 5 in the Sun Eater series. Just gonna start with like a quick impression feeling about this book. So, Ian, what did you make of this one?
I thought this book was all right. I've been quite critical of the series. The first one I did enjoy, and the next two I kind of didn't. And then Kingdoms of Death, I really didn't enjoy that one. But seeing how this was supposed to be one book, I can kind of see uh, what was supposed to go on. And you know what? If I read them back to back, which I didn't, I think I'd enjoy it a little bit more. But I am intrigued to pick up the next. Well, now I've learned that there's two more books, so I'm kind of intrigued to pick up the next one to see where the story goes. Because now I feel that for me personally, I feel that this was that turning point that I needed to really enjoy the series. I think the way it ended, and then set up for the next book.
Yeah, Susanna.
Yeah, well, unlike Ian, I really enjoyed Kingdoms of Death. So thought Ashes of Man was not as good, or I didn't enjoy it that much. But it was a much needed break for whatever comes next.
I actually think it was the best one of the series so far. I think I agree with Ian. Maybe I went in with certain expectations of what the book would be about. I think when we last talked, I thought it was going to be more of the moving the plot forward, the political aspects of it, but you still get pretty good action set pieces in the book, and you also get. I think it's a really good balance between plot and action moments and moving forward. And I think, Ian, you hit the nail on the head. The setup for the next book, he's landed it this time. It is, I think it's the first time where the stakes are really high, and we're gonna obviously talk about it. But the way it ends, the way he sets it out, yeah, definitely making me, October is a long way away to get the next one in paperback.
Are you gonna wait?
Yeah, because to be honest, I don't want to have the first 5 books on paperback and then one in Kindle or whatever. I want to have the set. The hardcover is €30 and the paperback is 12. It's a the money commitment is quite big. So I've got plenty to read in the meantime. So I can wait. How did you manage to grab hold of the ARC?
It's available on the publisher site. Anyone can get it. It's $12, I think, or 15, and yeah.
Oh, $15.
12 or 15,
Which is the price of the paperback?
Yeah, pretty much.
No.
The question is,
I couldn't wait.
The thing is that I was gonna get that one for free because the editor was gonna send it to me, but he had issues downloading the file, and I'm too shy to ask him for it. So because he's done so much already that I don't want to
Come on, support the authors.
Hey, I'm waiting.
The book is immense. I mean, it's great value for money. I assure you, hours and hours of reading material.
Yeah. Do you like to have your copies matching though on the shelf when you look at it though? That's kind of my thing. But
yeah. It's gonna sit in between. Well, no. So one shelf, I've got like a unit over there. The first shelf is the Wheel of Time. The shelf below is Discworld, and then the final shelf at the moment is building up to be Sun Eater. So he's sitting there with my most beloved and my most hated fantasy series.
Right, you kept the Wheel of Time. I got rid of that.
Did you? Ah,
Yeah, I
don't blame
did.
you. Don't blame you. Anyway, sorry. We okay. Hang on. Let me do a break here, and we get back on track. So I've started another YouTube channel in Spanish to just vent about books and stuff with a more sort of reading more like Spanish books or comics. But I did my version in Spanish of my rant video about the Wheel of Time, and it's been my most successful video. Like it's hit, like it's taken off in there. So the subscriber count, you can see a clear uptick after posting that. So I think I'm not alone. There is a community out there of Wheel of Time haters. Anyway,
in Spain.
yeah. So particular highlights of this book? Any particular like moment or any particular point where you got like really excited or thought it was very well executed? Let's start with Susanna now.
We can spoil it. Yeah, this is a spoiler discussion.
It is, of course. Otherwise,
Is that a yes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Valka's death was the pinnacle, and I think it was very well done. We knew it was coming, but I guess because we knew it was coming right up until the last moment, we're like, well, maybe not. Maybe they'll just get separated or whatever. But I think, yeah, it was very well done. Other than that, there was one thing that annoyed me, and this is something that happens a lot in books, and every time it happens, I get upset. When is the thing with Gibson, they spend so much time together, enjoying the time they have together, etc., and then they ended up not talking about who he was. How is that possible? How can you live with someone for months or years, hang out every day, and not talk about the thing you most want to talk about, and then find out by someone else? So that annoyed me a little bit. Other than that, the setup, the characters, Lorien, excellent. The whole thing with the Emperor, their interaction, the dialogue between them, it was just brilliant. And that was handled pretty damn well. And so it was exactly what needed to happen. I know this sounds horrible, but yeah.
Ian?
I'd like to echo that, because as soon as she started talking like she want her about her future and how she wants some kids, I thought like, oh boy, this is like the cliche, like she's gone. But at the same time, like that's what I kind of liked it, because we need like something has to push Adrian over the edge to be that Sun Eater, and this is exactly like he has like. All his friends are dead, basically, most of them. Now his wife / girlfriend that his lover is dead, and yeah, he's gonna finally. The next 2 books are just gonna be absolute chaos, in my opinion. Where he's pissed. He's gonna eat the sun. So I want to echo that. I also did like the Alexander, like hiring an assassin to kill him, and he just kind of like he didn't blow it off, but I thought that was a pretty fun little arc.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. I think the only way for him to just go, all in, sort everything else, is he needed, where else was it gonna be that was gonna tip him over the edge, and he had to be that, isn't it? But in spite of it being obvious, it was well executed. So now like you really understand why and everything. Gone. Someone say something, because I had a question but I've forgotten. So take the conversation away. Because the relationship with the Emperor, right? It's all a little bit it's a bit weird, isn't it? There is this sort of half acknowledgement that he is the savior of the universe, but obviously I am the emperor, so I cannot be seen to, bow to you or be less. So, what do you make of that dynamic between them?
Oh, it's very tense. The emperor is the emperor, but the emperor doesn't have his. No, the emperor has power, but doesn't have his power. So they are quite well matched, and the whole thing is compounded by Adrian's popularity over the ages and his personality. But the emperor is no fool and is not a weak man. So it's the perfect clash, the perfect adversary, frenemy. I think it's the correct word.
The way they're kind of using each other. He's using for the power, and then yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did you think at the end? The Prince of Jad, just came for the rescue. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think, like you said before, there is. Well, I need to write these things down. So these are conversation points, because you were talking about the relationship with Tor Gibson, and then the Prince of Jad, who was a character we've seen before, but we didn't know who he actually
It was
was.
always a bit. There was something off with that character. I didn't see it coming, but I was like, this guy is not all there. Why is he giving him this sword? This is not sword.
Yeah.
Forget the name.
High
Lightsaber. No,
yeah.
it's not a lightsaber, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if those things, if you try to unpick them or think a little bit about them, maybe they're not that well executed. But if you're just willing to, not analyze them, it moves the story forward. It gets you where you need to. And it's not necessarily, is it out of the blue? It came a little bit out of left field, didn't it?
Yeah, it came just long enough for us to forget about it. Yeah. Very well timed.
Somebody get the plot to move forward, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, well, you have so you have the arc, and so you might know a little bit more, but yeah, it's just something to maybe gets unraveled more in the next two, because there's still 2 books left here, and I don't think
But we were talking about the whole Tor Gibson thing. I could actually envision how he may not actually know who he really was, in spite of, because they had very much that sort of, master apprentice relationship, and Gibson felt very much like this sort of the old sage that wouldn't really give or say much about himself, but just impart the wisdom and the knowledge. So I can imagine how Hedger would never actually learn who Gibson really was. That wasn't that much of a deal breaker for me.
I understand why Gibson would perhaps feel ashamed or thought that if Hedian find out about his past, he wouldn't respect him as much. It's one of those tropes that annoy me. I was a bit disappointed because I think it would have been a great conversation between them, and later he finds out, and it's kind of like, yeah, well, sure. It was too much of a build-up, and I don't think there was enough payoff. Maybe that's the point, is just missed opportunities in life. You never actually say everything you want to say. It just felt a bit incomplete.
So 2 things. I think you're right that sometimes we can have relationships with people but never delve too deeply in our emotions with with within that relationship, and I think maybe he's just depicting that situation. Or I think in general, throughout the series, he's not much for the. He's more of a tell versus show.
Mm.
Throughout the all, I've always felt that one of the weaker points of the series are the character relationships. The only one that is fully fleshed out is the Hadrian and Valka. Or, this one did a much better job of, the tension between Hadrian and the Emperor. But with every other secondary and supporting character, we've never really had a lot of moments where he's shown us that emotional bond with Elara or Palino or any of the other characters. I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but that's how I view it.
And that's been my main like criticism with this series is I want to know more about the secondary characters, but it's a first person narrative, so I mean I can understand that's what we're gonna get, but that was my main what you just hit with your head. Like I want to know more about like that relationship between Polino and all those guys. I really like Polino. He might have been my favorite secondary character. And we just kind of yeah.
Yeah, but even though it's a first person narrative, he could have written a couple of scenes where we see like a deeper emotionally involved interaction between them. And I get it that the books are already lengthy enough that if you're going to add these scenes and spread them across the books, are going to make them even longer. But I'm not sure, we're not talking necessarily an extra 10% length in the books. I think just a couple of scenes here and there would have flavored the cast of characters much more.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they don't spend time together.
Yeah.
They live for centuries. It would just make a much longer book if we went through all those little details.
But would it though, really?
It's a different focus. I don't like to compare things, but for example, in The Expanse, a lot of the story is focused around the interactions between the crew, and that's kind of what drives the plot forward or takes precedence. In this, like you said, it's a first person perspective, so it tells us how much he cares about these people, how much he admires these people, how much, and sometimes it doesn't show as maybe as often as we would like, because he's focusing on other things. He has this whole story to tell, and those little moments, it does dwell, and it does go deep into certain moments when they are important and time stops and but the interactions, I think they are kind of taken for granted. You have to take things at his word sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
it's what it is.
I suppose I'm asking for Robin Hobb levels of character interaction, just a little bit more. I thought would have been nice.
Different styles, yeah. I think it was very well handled, because after everything that happened in Kingdoms of Death, I was afraid that we were gonna spend like a quarter of the book with him licking his wounds, let's say, or just being depressed or feeling guilty about it and stuck in medical treatments. And I think that bit actually passed very fast, because of course he had to grieve. He couldn't just, okay, this happens, going back to battle. No, he had to take a break and grieve. And I think that was very well handled. I think even because I was reading the books back to back, so I needed that break as well. And then the slow build up of the intrigue and finding out that the emperor knew about the Watchers. I mean, I'm all about higher entities. The moment start talking about the Quiet and the Watchers and Monumentals, I'm like, oh yes, please tell me more. That's the relationships, the interactions that I crave, I think.
Yeah, because that moment where we literally I think, and that's something that Christopher mentioned when we had the chat last week, that the world is progressively getting more fantastical, and we got these gods things now, like we
Yeah.
like now, really, after like 5 books, now we have this, you know,
Not now. They've been around since the beginning.
it's been so,
Yeah,
but now like
since the
we've
very
seen
first
it.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Are we gonna have like a Clash of the Titans type thing going forward now?
Oh, I hope so. God.
Because what do you make of that progressive shift towards more fantasy? Did it come a bit left of field when they encountered that huge creature slash god in the planet?
No, not for me. I think that was the thing that drew me into the books from the very beginning. All the little philosophical asides, the little hints, it was all there ever since whatever happened to him on his way to Emesh, and the whole thing about the ruins going backwards in time. You, you had all the little hints there that there was something much larger at stake than just Empire versus Silson, or versus extrasolarians or whatever. And yeah, it was that fantastical or metaphysical uh, plot line that drawn me in.
What do you think,
Ian is
Ian?
about to disagree.
It's really looking like they're all just kind of puppets in a greater scheme kind of thing, in my opinion. But it's with I kind of like I don't like I understand like the quiet and the watchers. Like I'm not really into that type of storyline. I guess that's like another criticism. Like I don't know if I get it or I don't understand it. I've had to read it a few times, but I don't know. I just don't like that. Doesn't intrigue me enough. I like that more. Uh, uh, Hadrian kind of following around him, but I understand that's kind of what he's discovering it as well. But I don't know. That's just not my. That's just not my thing.
The thing is, okay, the problem is, I think at the core, it's a fantasy series.
Yeah.
It just happens that the setting that the fantasy is taking place is in a future time where technology has advanced. It's not, but imagine Lord of the Rings, but instead of being set in medieval times, is in the year 4000 or whatever it is. So that's kind of the way I think about it. It is a fantasy series in a futuristic setting, but at the core is fantasy. The problem is that it is our conceivable future, because they come from our Earth and then it should be more sci-fi than I don't know. It's a weird meshing of the two genres.
And this
It's
is kind
very
of why
unique.
this is why we kind of picked that story. It was because I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi. You didn't read a whole lot of sci-fi, is what I remember, and we were kind of recommended this story because it was a fantasy reader's introduction into science fiction. I think that's what we were kind of pitched as. So we both love fantasy, and then mix in that science fiction. But that, yeah,
If I don't think that was a great sell. Um, it's more an introduction to space opera than science fiction. But then
yeah,
again, space opera is kind of fantasy in space anyway. Um, it's tricky.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's kind of very Star Warsy type thing. I
yeah,
mean,
science fantasy. It's what it is. Science
yeah,
fantasy.
yeah. Now, and now it's discussing, which drawer, which tag to attach to the series. But it is, I think, it's a fairly. I haven't read that much, but seems like a fairly unique blend of the two genres. I don't think I've
Yes.
read anything that looks like this at all.
No. It's what I said, I think, a couple of videos back. For me, it's closer to space opera, but because it's single point of view, I don't think I've ever read space opera with just one point of view, just because the scope is always so big. I personally, I wouldn't even know where to begin, and it's very well executed because you still get that sense of scope from this character that seems to be, in the right place at the right time, everything. But it never feels particularly forced. And even the whole magic system of, putting quotes, of his powers, they fit the world so well. Yeah, it's
No,
well
I
done.
get that. And I just thought about another talking point where I think, I don't know, but I think Ruocchio may have dropped the timeline there. What's the name of the captain that they go into battle with? Um, the,
Which one?
I think it's the one. Is he got like a cane to walk with? I'll have to.
Is that up at Sunderland, right?
Yeah. Is it Basanderlin? Yeah,
The Sunderland, yeah.
yeah. He's gone. Because he spent the last of Ashes of Man. He spent like decades in the island where Thor Gibson was buried. Then they had the whole 70-year space travel when they escaped the Cielcing, and then they travel into the capital of the empire, and then Basanderlin is there, and when he appeared on the page, I was like, oh, how is he still alive after all this time?
They live for hundreds of years, and
Yeah,
they
but
spend a lot of time on ice.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of chalking up to. Just going that fugue state.
I think that's one of the moments where Rocky has gone. Hopefully, no one will think too much about it, and we move on, because he didn't necessarily have to spend the same amount of time in fugue as Hadrian did. So, yeah, I don't know if the timeline matches there.
Well,
Speaking
it's
of,
been a while.
yeah, go ahead.
It's been a
Yeah.
while since I read it, so I have nothing to input because I don't remember having had any thought anything strange about. But then again, I read this book around the time we had our last conversation, so. So,
Yeah.
So, kind of speaking of the Sunderland, so in this series, he's kind of been a friend and an opponent to Marlowe or Hadrian Marlowe. And then were you kind of like surprised a little bit when he was the one who actually orchestrated the breakout at the very end? Right, you're like, oh, he's finally understanding that maybe because he was kind of a rule follower for the longest time, and then he kind of turned out to be the one to break him out and be like, okay, he's coming to his side now, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think there's that recognition at the end that he is. I was going to say Earth's savior, but there's no Earth. But the chosen one, whatever you want to call it, the person that's going to save humanity, and therefore he stops playing by the rules and just blindly. There's a lot of the philosophical implications, or not implications, but the considerations of obedience, isn't it? The teachings of Thor Gibson through the books. There's obedience out of fear, and then there's obedience out of duty, and obedience out of devotions, and how some forms of obedience are more morally sort of superior or preferable to others. There's a lot of that through the series, and I think probably Basander Lin has realized that obedience by devotion, by duty, isn't necessarily always the best thing to do, and that's why he orchestrates the breakout at the end. Yes.
Okay, that's why I was so confused. It's not Visanderlin, it's Lorien
Lorien.
who
Okay.
executes the. I was a completely different story running through my head. Okay, no, it was Lorien. Lorien has a cane. He
That's
was
right.
the one who breaks him out at the end. He was the one that was spared in Kingdoms of Death and got a bit upset about it because he didn't die with everyone
That's right.
else.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right. That's right.
it was Lorien. Oh, sorry. It's like,
That's right.
have I
That's right.
completely forgotten about Visanderlin? No, okay. Everything's fine.
Okay, I got two different characters in my head then, I think. There's a lot of yeah.
But you are absolutely right to say the loyalty out of fear and all this. Yeah, that's
So do you think so do you think that the last book was split into two? I've heard rumors that the last book was split into two. It was going to be six. So what do you think happens next? Like, because we got two books left now, and you guys were looking at the page counts earlier. It sounds like they're pretty beefy. There was like the next one was like, did you say 700 something pages, and the last one you said 900, or did I misheard the last one?
Was he already writing the last one? I think so. No,
I
he's
think
writing.
so. Yeah, I think the last one is coming out this year.
Oh,
So
really?
Yep.
At
least the hardback and ebook.
The thing, I was a bit surprised because the way this book finishes, and knowing that the next one, This Quiet Gods, is 700 pages long, in my head, I was like, oh, well, this is it. That's the last book. And then I went on Amazon and it said This Quiet Books, book 6 of 6. So it sort of, I don't know, I just deluded myself into thinking that book 6 was the last one. And then when Christopher said there's the 7th book coming, it's like, oh, I don't know. I just thought that we've got the setup for the final confrontation. We've got the motivation. Everything makes perfect sense. Everything is lined up. Or maybe the last book is going to be so big and so major that he had to split it in two.
Yeah, because that was because when I was watching your guys' interview, I didn't know there was a 7th book. I thought this was because, yeah, like you said, this is set up perfectly to basically end with a bang. And I guess what I'm more worried about is the interest going to be there at the very end? But he's got to have that's why I was kind of confused. I didn't know there was a 7th book. So, yeah, I guess that's what my main thing was like, yeah, this is going to be how big are these books?
Big. I don't think the 7th book was planned, but the story just got a little bit out of hand. Yeah.
But I'm feeling hopeful because for me the series has been on an uptrend after bottoming out in Howling Dark, which some people apparently think is the best book in the series. For me, that was a low point. But after Howling Dark, the books have been getting better and better and better. And this one, I think, it reads. I think I've read it fairly quickly. It didn't feel like it dragged at all. You know, I was reading at a pretty good pace, being quite engaged. There you go. We have a spy in the house. This is Christopher's editor. So watch what we say now.
I agree. It's pretty happy.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling hopeful. Like I said, after this 5th book, it's gonna be awesome. I wish it came up before the summer in the paperback because it would make perfect, summertime reading. But we'll pick it up in October. But yeah, maybe 6 and 7 had to be a split. I don't know if Debbie can give us some color on that.
Well, either way, yeah, it definitely. I think this book was. It wasn't necessarily. It was a setup book, but it did very well, and I'm interested. Okay, yeah, I can definitely see the growing with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's something we touched upon when we talked to him, and I don't want to make a big deal out of it because it's a personal thing, and I don't want to talk about those things necessarily. But he obviously had his sort of finding religion again and finding something that gave meaning to his life as well while he was writing the books, I think. And I don't know, I think all those things will probably, and obviously he had a baby as well, and so he's at a different point in life now than he would have been 2 years ago. I think all those things are pretty major changes in your life, and there you go. And all those things maybe subconsciously will affect you on alter
Hmm.
your perception of how you write.
Of course. And it shows.
Mm. Yeah. No, I think definitely my appreciation for the series has grown as the books have gone on. Right. Have you two got any more sort of specifics you want to discuss about the book or just the series in general?
So, haven't talked about. So, what is your take on the extrasolarians and the whole plague thing?
I wish I think I need a second conversation to understand the world better. Because I think these people at the okay, hang on. So we've got obviously the Solar Empire. Then we have the people that are sort of on the fringe, like Vulcan, the people that are sort of not technologically, they're not technophobes. They're okay to be technologically enhanced, but and then but then we've got the, I was saying in book 2 when they go and visit that oracle thing. What was it called? Um, anyway, there seem to be like 3 factions basically of humans. You got the Empire, the Extrasolarians, and some kind of people in between. Is that right?
4, 5. Yeah.
Because the ones that have aligned themselves with this Yeltsin, that doesn't make sense to think that they're going to let you be. I think it's quite obvious that they are out to conquer the universe. So I'm not entirely sure there's intelligence in that decision making process there.
But how do you so do you think it's not relevant, or how does it fit into it all?
I suppose it's just trying to show different ways that people would react to a credible threat. So you can oppose it, or you could side along, like in some sort of war conflict. Different countries will react differently. I just question the intelligence of siding up with the Yeltsin, thinking that you're going to be an ally to them on an equal footing.
Okay.
Apologies, I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Because what do you think, Susanna?
Oh, I think that there's a lot more going on than just humans versus Yeltsin. There's or just humans versus humans, or humans versus machines. It's all linked, and I like the dynamic. It's almost like rock paper scissors. Uh, when when two ally, someone gets left out, and vice versa, and it works very well in that universe. And
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I don't know if it's different layers of conflict, but there's definitely different fronts of conflict, because you've got the conflict with technology, and you've got the conflict with the Yeltsin. And I don't know if there's a hierarchy there, or there's different moving pieces, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's a very rich, complex, and it's huge universe. Um, very, very complex. Very well done.
Hmm. So maybe, maybe we're going to have a resolution to all of that.
Oh, well, I hope. We'll see. What would be a good resolution for you as things are now? What do you expect from the next books?
Well, I think we kind of know what the ending is going to be. Um, so Hedwig is going to do his thing, and because he's lost it all, he doesn't really care. He doesn't want to be emperor. He doesn't want to have a position of power. He he's kind of this humanitarian that is going to save the human race, but not reap any rewards because he doesn't care for that sort of thing, and then just go on and live in some sort of remote island planet reading his books. Um,
Okay. What about you, Ian?
Is did we figure out if I can't remember from the first book because he's writing this story. He's writing this story. Is he in? For some reason, is he in prison, or am I getting my books confused? Because my thinking is, if that's the case, I don't remember if we had that revelation. Like, um, is he's going to eat the sun, and then I think he's going to get like arrested, and he's writing his memoir. This is his memoir from like his prison cell, and I can't remember because another book did this, and I don't remember if I'm confusing those books, and I can't remember all the way back in the first book if he said like he's writing from a cell. I don't think he is. I think it's a different book, but I think that's kind of he's writing it from maybe he's in exile. He's living up on like Jose said he's living up in like some mountain or somewhere like that. I think, but for some reason, I'm just getting that vibe where he'll do this, and then the Empire is just like, you're way too dangerous. You're too dangerous to keep around. Great, you saved everybody, but like you said, like there's that contention between him and the Empire. I think it ends with him either in exile or maybe he's in like prison. He's just writing his memoir down, and that's what this series is. I don't know if it could be a happy ending because like he's lost everything. Like or I mean that's but just my thing. I think he's in exile or prison, and that's where he's writing these memoirs for him because he's just too dangerous to kind of keep around.
and
Is
that's,
I don't
that's
think he's in prison. As he said where he was. I'm trying. Was that Jesus names? It's a cell, but it's not a prison cell. Anyway.
Okay.
Do I trust? Not everything. Is very good at hiding stuff, and then by the way, this happened. Or I love when it just goes into digressions and into the future and what happened to this character or not, and I wish I'd see them again. And yeah, he loves to play with the reader. The he's a very unreliable narrator.
I actually think, could be wrong. I trust what Hadrian is telling us. I think he's in some sort of either self-imposed or agreed upon or imposed exile. But I think that's either the clever thing to tell you from the start what his ending is going to be. So then you don't have to worry about that. At the end, you're not going to be disappointed by where he ends up because you've been told from the beginning. Now the important thing is the journey, not the ending. You cannot be disappointed that he ends up exiled or in prison or somewhere there because you do that a lot in movies as well. Like, hey, this is me in prison. Let me tell you how I got there, and he does remind you throughout the book. It's not like in a movie where the whole movie is a flashback and you forget the beginning of the movie, and then you get a stark reminder at the end that actually this is all a flashback and we started. at this place.
Are these just ravings of a madman? Is he really the Sun Eater, or did the Sealsons capture him and he's just making all this stuff up in his fan fiction fantasy?
Nah, nah,
No,
nah,
you
nah,
don't think that's you don't think there's a chance that could be the big twist in the story?
no, 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 no. I cannot believe for a single second that he is gonna do that bait and switch at the end. I, if he did, I don't know how I would react, but possibly not positively would be my reaction. If he was like captured by the Sealsing and tortured and driven insane, and these are the rumblings of nah, nah.
There's a chance. There's a chance. There's a chance.
Is there really? No, you guys are just messing with me now. I cannot buy that.
I'm staying quiet because I'm still looking for the name. It's at the tip of my tongue, and I can't find it. It's driving me crazy. But never mind.
Would you guys be
Not exactly.
disappointed if that was the ending?
He was there already because oh gosh, when he went and looked and found the Americani ship. This doesn't exist. When they found the Americani ship, what was the name of that place where all the knowledge was? Anyway,
I don't know.
that's what I think is. I might be remember it wrong. Maybe I am, but that's at some point he said that he was writing in one of those cells.
Okay, so
I might have dreamt it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name.
No, I agree with David here. Yeah.
I just got to throw it out there. We got to throw out all possibilities.
No, it's just, I think it would be too far fetched. It would be too much of a 180 turn. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? We've touched upon it, but not quite. Is this going to take a turn now, and is it going to become about something else? Because we've discovered the gods, and I think they were going to go and try to find them or something like that. So is this why we got 2 more books, and this is going to turn into something else, something bigger? Possibly, I can see that. I can, and that would explain why we've got another 2 potentially chunkers coming. Because I'm assuming the last book is not going to be 400 pages. So.
But in the sense, it always was, like I always had that impression from the beginning that there was more than the Selson out there.
Yeah, but you're a much more perceptive reader than I am, Susanna, which is why you're here. Whereas I think I've discovered the world with the books as I've gone along. I haven't been able to make those leaps of inference.
Because that's the thing. I get bored if he's just fighting between factions. There always has to be something more. Wow.
Yeah. See, that's where I thought.
No wonder it's taking me so long to read it.
No last book in a series is the shorter one, is it?
So, Suzanne, what is your opinion? Where do you think this ends? We didn't get your side on it.
Oh man, I can't say because I already know a little bit more. But before reading this book, I was kind of like you guys. I thought, okay, Valka's death was kind of going to be the catalyst to make him finally accept his destiny, kind of thing. But the whole thing about the prince, it kept kind of just why, and upon reading the blurb, I think that that is a spoiler to mention the blurb of book 6. And I was like, oh, right. So this is finally going places, and it might not be the places I thought it was going. Because I would be very disappointed if it ended up being just, oh, it's going to take a few hundred years in exile and finally come to terms with what he has to do, and then he goes and blows up a star and kills all the Selsun, and the end. I would be like, what about everything else you mentioned? What about the ruins? What about the monumentals? What about, I want to know about these things. Come on.
Well,
Yeah, I would be upset.
because when we talk to him and I query him about the abandoned plot threads, all these times that Hadrian has been married and nothing has come out of that, etc. Christopher said that some of them there's going to be no resolution to those, but that some of them are going to come back. So possibly we going to, these things that you've been mentioning, Susanna, are going to come back in books 6 and 7. So there's still things there to come back. Possibly his family, maybe. I mean, to just discard his father and mother, like mom disappeared in page 20 or whatever it was.
That's
so
true.
This book, page 20 of book 1, obviously.
I can't remember. Does Crispin ever come back? I can't remember if he did.
Only in the novella.
Yeah. Okay. Because that was a pretty intriguing character. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Competition going. I'm assuming that's at the Baen website. Okay.
But when you go back to the first 2 books, sorry, if you reread the first books and even a bit of the third book, there's so much in there that if the end was just, okay, now he's pissed off and he's gonna do what he needs to do, what was the point of all that? It will be very disappointing if it's ended like that. Just
I am big believer in Chekhov's gun. If you know the literary figure, is that if you're going to describe a gun above the fireplace, I want that gun to go off in the next 20 pages, right? So if you're going to do all these things, I want the payoff later, because otherwise we are talking Wheel of Time nonsense here, and I can't abide by that.
It always comes back, doesn't it?
It is.
Every time. Seriously, that's.
It is a fantastic
secretly
example.
Your favorite series ever.
I love to hate it. That's it. It's the perfect how not to write a fantasy series.
Oh God, what have we done? Just created a monster.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, is there anything else in particular? Otherwise, I'm thinking of wrapping this up here, unless anyone, because I think
No.
the difficulty about just talking about a specific single book in a series is that we are quite limited to what we can discuss. Whereas sometimes, if we do a discussion of the whole series, then I think that there's more room for points of conversation. But I think we've done almost 1 hour today, and unless there's something anybody wants to bring up, maybe we can call it a day.
It was another great book. Like I said, very very needed break after Kingdoms of Death, and I'm just sad that, I mean, come on, we're not going to wait until November to have another talk. Just get the ebook or the arc. Hit the momentum. Come on. We can have another talk when the book comes out. That'd be great.
I don't want to pay twice for the same book. Although, having said that, I've got 2 copies of the blue one, Kingdoms of Death. I've got 2 copies of Kingdoms of Death. So I don't know. I'll think about it. But Susanna, you're quite busy. You've got a lot of things going on. So
I
you
can
don't
always
need
make time for
you don't
solitaire.
need another live stream. Anyway, right. I think we're gonna call it a day here. So thank you very much, everyone watching now or later. Thank you very much, David, for joining in the chat and stirring the pot with your comments. And thank you, Ian. Thank you, Susanna. Where can people find you before we go, Ian?
I'm at B&B Books on the BookTube. Yeah, B&B Books.
And Susanna, and then shameless plug. Take the opportunity.
Oh, well, my channel is called Den of the Weirds. It's very niche. You can find me on X as Chronodendron, and you can find my books pretty much everywhere. Timelessness, the first book is Weird Gods, and I have a standalone novel coming up in March called Oublié, available for pre-order. Check it out.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Take loads and loads of care, and we'll see you maybe before November. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Bye. Thank you, David. Bye. And hopefully